October winds howled across the ancient peaks as Typhoon Vera approached the remote Shirakawa Monastery. Rain lashed the weathered wooden buildings perched impossibly on the mountainside, their paper lanterns flickering like dying prayers against the storm. For 800 years, these sacred halls had sheltered monks and scholars seeking enlightenment in solitude. Tonight, they would shelter something far darker. The mountain road, carved precariously into the cliff face, surrendered to the typhoon's fury, chunks of stone and earth tumbling into the abyss below. There would be no leaving this place until the storm passed. In the monastery's modest dining hall, an unlikely assembly had gathered around low wooden tables. Professor Hiroshi Takeshi, the renowned scholar from Tokyo University, examined ancient manuscript fragments with obsessive precision, his wire-rimmed glasses catching the lantern light. Across from him sat his academic rival, Professor Yamamoto from Kyoto, whose tight smile barely concealed decades of professional jealousy. The aging Abbot Jishin presided over the meal with quiet dignity, while young novice Kenji served tea with trembling hands. Whether from nervousness or anger, none could say. But it was the woman in the corner who drew the most curious glances. She had arrived just before the storm, claiming to be Takeshi's wife. A revelation that shocked everyone, including, apparently, the professor himself. The evening meal grew tense as academic pride clashed with monastic serenity. Takeshi spoke dismissively of Yamamoto's recent work on Buddhist texts, his voice carrying the casual cruelty of intellectual superiority. Young Kenji, assigned to assist the visiting scholar, finally snapped at yet another condescending remark about the monastery's primitive cataloguing system. Words were exchanged, sharp, angry words that echoed off the ancient wooden beams. The mysterious woman, who called herself Emiko, watched this display with calculating eyes, her tea growing cold in delicate hands. When Abbot Jishin gently suggested they retire early due to the storm, the relief was palpable. None of them knew that one among them would not see the morning. Dawn broke grey and violent, the storm still raging with undiminished fury. It was novice Kenji who made the discovery, arriving early to prepare the temple library for the professor's research. The ancient wooden doors hung open, rain-soaked wind scattering precious manuscript pages like fallen leaves. Professor Takeshi lay crumpled between towering shelves of sacred texts, his body twisted in an unnatural position. Beside him, gleaming with rainwater that dripped through the damaged roof, lay the monastery's most sacred relic, a ceremonial dagger from the 13th century, its blade dark with blood. Kenji's screams pierced the storm, bringing the others running through puddles that had formed on the wooden floors. Death had come to this holy place, and the mountain had become their prison. The monastery became a cage of suspicion as the survivors gathered in the main hall. Abbot Jishin, his weathered hands clasped in prayer, confirmed what they all feared. The mountain road was completely impassable, and the telephone lines had fallen with the first trees. They were alone with the killer until the typhoon passed. Professor Yamamoto, ever practical, suggested they preserve the scene and question each other methodically. But Emiko, the mysterious wife, seemed strangely calm for a woman who had just lost her husband. Masa, the cook who had prepared everyone's tea the night before, muttered about curses and ancient sins. Young Kenji sat in stunned silence, his robes still damp from the rain-soaked library. Each face held secrets, and the storm outside seemed to mock their predicament. As the investigation began, each suspect's facade started to crumble like ancient parchment. Professor Yamamoto reluctantly admitted his bitter rivalry with the dead man. Takeshi had stolen credit for a groundbreaking translation, destroying Yamamoto's career prospects. Novice Kenji confessed through tears that the professor had mocked his scholarly abilities at dinner, calling him an ignorant peasant boy playing at enlightenment. But it was Masa who revealed the most disturbing detail. She had seen the mysterious woman, Emiko, sneaking toward the library long after midnight. When confronted, Emiko's composure finally cracked. Her marriage to Takeshi, she claimed, was secret because of her shameful past. Yet something in her eyes suggested the shame ran deeper than mere social scandal. Abbot Jishin's revelation about the ceremonial dagger sent shockwaves through the group. The blade was more than a relic. It was the monastery's most closely guarded treasure, kept locked in his private chambers for 40 years. Only he possessed the key, yet the weapon had somehow found its way to the murder scene. Under intense questioning, the old monk's composure began to fracture. The dagger, he finally admitted, was connected to a shameful chapter in the monastery's history. A scandal from centuries past involving forbidden love and violent death. When pressed for details, Jishin's eyes filled with an ancient pain, and his silence spoke volumes. The storm continued to rage, as if the very mountains were protesting the resurrection of this buried secret.